So, Sean, you're a CEO of a company and you have a family. What do you do when you're facing a really big decision and you're not really sure what to choose, how to go about it?
My default mode is the Bible tells you to be patient and to be still when things aren't clear. So, my default mode is I go to prayer, I go to thought, and I just think about being patient, right? Because, and listen, we can bring this up as an example because it's a real near-term example of when these kind of things come into play. So a few years ago we had the COVID outbreak, and you had this vaccine that was sitting in front of you. And I'm not anti-vax. I've had all of my vaccines, all of that stuff. So, what I am though is I am the Bible teaches us to be skeptical of our leaders, skeptical of our pastors. And so I learned this early on that, when I became a Christian, I needed to go and get my information myself. I needed to understand and have a relationship with God. Nobody could tell me, no pastor could tell me. And the reason that they say to do that is because, you have to know what you know. You can't, men and women are fallible. We all are flawed people. And so you can't put your faith and trust in what someone else is saying. The only way you can really understand things is to learn. And I had to get into the Word of God and have, him reveal his message and his guidance for my life. And it comes along with faith. And in the Bible, it tells you to be still when you're unsure, to be quiet, to be silent. And I think it tells you that because time has a way of giving you the insight and the clarity that you need if you can sit still. That's why emotional decisions, rash decisions, those kind of things usually don't turn out real well, right? Because you've taken the thinking part, the decision-making part of your body and your brain, and now you're making decisions out of emotion, which is not the way you want to go. And so, as I started to understand this and apply it to different things in my life, I saw that it bared fruit pretty much every time. When something didn't seem right or I didn't understand, instead of just jumping into it, you sit still, and then ultimately time is going to give you more knowledge and more information where you can make a better educated decisions. And when you really understand that who we are and where we are in life is a culmination of the millions of micro decisions that we make every single day over our lifetime, the culmination of those things lead you to where you are at this moment, right?
Yeah.
And so understanding small decisions make an impact. Big decisions have even more implications on your life. And so, I think the default mode, that's why ultimately I didn't get the vaccine. It wasn't because I was anti-vax. It's because my default mode, and I think a lot of Christians that they're talking about being anti-vax, it's not the way they looked at it. It was never about anti-vax. Sure, I'm very skeptical of our government. I'm very skeptical of our leaders. I'm very skeptical of pharmaceutical companies because if you've done your research, this all goes back to you're responsible for your own decisions. And if you are making your decisions based on what other people are telling you, it's like playing Russian roulette, dude. It's like literally having bullets in that gun and you don't know when the next one is going to get you. And so as time started to play out, things became more and more clear that something wasn't right. First of all, Pfizer's paid 2.3, the largest fines in the history of our country. So they already had kind of started out with, hey, you got to pay attention to what these guys are doing, right? And so I just use the same. Listen, it's a skill. It's a skill that once you understand and learn it and you apply it, it's just the way you operate. And I think a lot of people operated like that. And as time went on, I didn't know what this was going to turn out to be.
You don't have a crystal ball. Yeah.
I just didn't know. It just didn't seem like it made sense to a healthy 57-year-old guy with no problems. It's like this didn't make sense to me. And I'm not going to just put things in my body that I don't understand at this point. Maybe I did when I was younger and I took all these vaccines, but I have more wisdom now. And so, there's a little bit of thought process that goes into that. And I apply this across all of my decision making, if you're not sure, especially this really comes into play in in big decisions that you're going to make in your life, right? Maybe not in small decisions. You're making those deals on the fly. But when there's a big decision, I can tell you this, my wife has she has intuition from God. She's connected with God. And I told you guys this earlier. Listen, probably the 3 or 4 biggest financial mistakes that I've made, and they were big. One of them was a few $1 million. She advised me after prayer not to move forward with that. And I thought she was killing my spirit and that she just was, didn't want, being too conservative and not being aggressive enough. But really and truly, she's connected in a way that, she's practicing what she's read, and when she's not sure, she just sits still, dude. And so we've applied that in our marriage and our business decisions. And listen, you can't ever make a wrong decision by not making a decision. You can only make a wrong decision, I think, by making a decision that, especially as it relates to your health.
And I find as a 22-year-old, guys, and I'm going to lay out this backstory. So earlier today, I was sitting at my desk, and I don't really know what I was working on, but Sean sat down and he started talking about this. And it really resonated with me because I am at that age where, and a lot of people my age are making these big decisions like, okay, where am I going to live? Where am I going to work? Because that's an incremental decision as a 22-year-old. Like, this is like your early years where you can set yourself up for success.
That's
and
right.
These things matter. They matter to you. And so, and I was like, I don't really know if I've necessarily faced a lot of indecision, but I find a lot of people my age have. And they don't know where to turn. And like you said, they might be listening to a lot of outside things, especially with social media, and you feel a lot of pressure, a lot of time pressure. Social media makes you feel like that, and you start comparing your life to other people, but you're only seeing half of the picture. So I think that this message is so important, especially for people close to my age, to hear that sometimes the best thing is to be still, and it's whatever's meant to happen is going to happen for you. So I think that this is a really good message, not just for older people to hear, but younger people, because I'm at an age where it's like some people are making some of the biggest decisions. Like, if I were to move across the country for a job, like, that's going to shape my next few years. So I think that this is just a really, really timely topic. And just like, and we were talking about with the vaccine, a lot of people were facing these pressures. And I asked Sean, I'm like, okay, outside of the vaccine though, what do you advise, like, as, maybe in business, like, you're facing these timely pressures and you feel like, you almost feel like you're in the rat race a little bit. Like, either way, it's like you're kind of panicking.
Yeah.
What would you advise to somebody?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult because, you can't get paralyzed with indecision also. So it's a real balancing act that I can just tell you, I was bad at this for a lot of my early life. I was a poor decision. I made decisions out of emotions. I didn't make decisions from the facts. I get caught up in the hurrah of momentum, and momentum meant that I could do this. And so I really, I did not have this as a part of my skill set. And therefore, I made a lot of bad decisions, dude. I mean, going back personally and in business, I made a lot of bad decisions. The good news about that, though, is if you're trying to learn and improve as you make these bad decisions, at some point you're going to wake up and say, shit, I think I need to change something. And yeah, it was, when we lost all that money on that business deal, and it was like this, Angelina had warned me, I said, never again, dude. Like, I'll never make a big decision again without having her involved, because she has this gift from God where she has this intuition, because she literally called it on every situation, dude. And it was like 4 for 4. So, yeah, listen, it's a work in progress to understand and know. It's more of a feel than it is anything. But you think about it when you're making a decision. If you don't have a good feeling, or it's making, nerves are one thing, butterflies are one thing, but just being unsure, like you're not 100% that this is the way to go, right? And so that's the way we are now. Until we're at 100%, like, we understand the consequences, we understand what we're getting into, and we are like 100% comfortable with all the knowledge that we know. That's when we move forward on big decisions now. Not on, listen, I'm failing 1 million times a day with small decisions. But as it relates, listen, the big decisions are the ones that have the biggest impact on your life and can be either detrimental or they can catapult you to somewhere. So those big decisions are, it really is, you can look back, most people can look back on their life, and there are key moments that they made either a good decision or a bad decision that changed the trajectory of their life. And that's just the way it is. And so if you understand that, then this becomes important for you to be good at it, right? And to be good at something, you have to be thoughtful. You have to look at all of the parameters and the surroundings and know how to do risk analysis. And you get better at it. It's just like everything else. The more you do it, the more you understand where you made a mistake, the more then you can fix it. So that's been my motto. I've been crash and burn my whole life. Go as fast as you can until you run into the wall, figure out why that wall got there, and then eliminate it the next time. And so that's the way that I'm wired. That's the way I like to do things. But also, I had to have wisdom because I was out of control with it. I thought I could make these big decisions, just like I made these little decisions. And you know what? I could will them into existence just because I was the one involved. And I was sadly mistaken. I overestimated my ability to do those things, and I needed to get myself in check so I could, listen, decisions are everything, dude. My decisions with my family, how I raise my kids, how I do my finances with medical treatment, where we travel, how we save money. Listen, these things are happening every single day, and you have to have thought. If you really want to make it, if the game of life is different levels, how good of a decision maker determines what level of the game you get to before you die, dude. And I want to get like, this is a game to me, so that's kind of.
I'm so glad you said that. Actually, I think I favorited this today. I saw it on Twitter, and it really intrigued me because I had never thought about it like this. Gosh, who was it? Was it Grant Cardone, maybe? Might have been Sahil Bloom. It was pretty much the premise of, I don't know where it was pretty much a tweet that was along the lines of, the way your life looks today is based upon the decisions you made a year ago. So think about the way that you're deciding to do things today and how that's going to look for you next year.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, wow, talk about zooming out. Because I don't know, for me, I really sat there and pondered about this because I'm like, my life was completely different. I don't remember who tweeted that.
Just think about this, your decision to go and become a cheerleader at LSU. Think about how great of a decision that was, what it added to your life, the fulfillment you got out of it, the things that you got to be a part of that are part of history, the national championship and all, supposedly the greatest team ever. Listen, you had to sit there. There was a commitment that you had to make. You knew there was a commitment and there was a decision. Was this worth it? It was obviously worth it for you. And so you plowed ahead, right? But as you go through life, you're going to see these things as it relates to raising your kids, as it relates to your finances, as it relates to all of the different components, man. It's very complicated if you want to live a fulfilling life, because if you're living a fulfilling life, that means you're pushing as hard as you can every day the boundaries of what your possibilities are, right? That's what I do. I'm trying to get outside things that are not possible. I'm trying to get to that point. Yeah. So these decisions become so important. And now, it's, once you understand this, I wish I knew this at 20 years old. Maybe I wouldn't have paid attention to it at 20 years old. I probably would have just ignored it because I ignored my wife for that long. But, listen, if I can impress upon this to young people and business people, man, develop a process on how you make decisions. Be intentional about it. Don't, I had to wrap my mind around, how do I make decisions differently? Because I always made them the same way. If I wanted to do it, I did it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. I didn't check with anyone. And not that Angelina made me check with her. I said, I have this resource sitting in my house that can protect me from getting killed. And so why would I not use this resource instead of fighting against it? She's trying to help me. She's not trying to rain on my parade. So it's just maturing, dude, and getting out of your ego, out of your feelings, and out of your emotions, and looking. She's black and white. She's an accountant, so everything is black and white. I see the world in all shades of gray and colors. That, I'm the guy in the batter's box that gets the white lines. I want to shove them all out so I can stand where I want to stand.
Yeah.
So I'm getting rid of the rules, but that only can take you so far, and then you're gonna start to fail because you're not going to be equipped to look at things. It's really about the way you process it and look at it and see all the pieces and all the angles. That allows you to make good decisions. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes thought and desire to be the best that you can be. If you're a good decision maker, life is going to be good, is the bottom line. Think about it. If every decision you made was a good decision because you knew how to evaluate and assess the risk or the benefit in a way, like life life is if you get good at this, life just gets good, man. It really does. And you get an understanding of things, a deep understanding of what contentment looks like, because you know that you're not skipping. Like we talk about in our direct marketing campaigns, if you don't skip a step, your probability of being successful increases greatly, right? Because we're following the science of direct. There's a science in all this stuff. There's a real thing. And so when you realize that if I just get good at this, everything else gets easier. Why would no one do that? I don't know if this is a class that's taught. This is something that I realized through the School of Hard Knocks by getting my ass handed to me time and time and time again. And maybe it's just that as you get older, you get more wise, and so you become a better decision maker. But for young people, if they could figure this out at an early age, golly, man.
So one little flip on exactly what you're saying, because it seems like you're putting a ton of pressure on every decision, like the big decisions. And I think that's good to do, because I love the evaluation process. And what I think that does is once you have that and you take your time and you look at what that decision is, then you actually can commit to it a little bit more. There's no doubt in your mind that you're moving in the right direction.
Exactly.
And I think that allows you to have a lot more success, because you're confident in the path that you're going, because you thought it through. But then if something steers wrong because of that decision, I don't think you need to put all the weight on it. Like, some of the decisions that you made were bad, but they were learning experiences. It's almost like a huge fail. And did it set you back, or did it create the person that you are today?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's, I don't, as a young person, especially like with Shannon talking about how, like, if she went to Europe for 2 years, how that could change the course of her life. But I mean, shit, she's 22. How many years does she have to experience the world? It's like she's got several lifetimes. It's a little bit different for you and I because we're older, but still, I think, I'm turning 50 this year. I still have a good 20, 30 years of working my ass off because I love what I do. So it's different.
Yeah.
So 30 years ago, I was a different person.
That's right.
And I think you just kind of keep continuing going and knowing that I'm not going downhill with anything. I'm going to continue to grow and make better decisions for myself, for my family, and for who I want to be. But I'm going to be committed to that with good decisions. So I don't think there should be so much weight that, oh shit, I made a bad decision, and you weigh on it. It's just like you keep moving. But having that time to think about those decisions will give you the confidence to keep pushing forward, because you're like, you know what? I thought it through, and this is the path I want to go, and I think it's the right way to do it.
Yeah, dude, listen, so Mike, you're exactly right. When you're young, and dude, this does not like make up most of my life, where these are like big decisions.
Right.
Like, we're rolling, but as a young person, man, listen, that's the time to take more risk, to lay it all out there before you have a family and have responsibilities, dude. That's, and it's not like I beat myself up over these things. There's nothing to beat. There's something to learn from them. There's nothing to beat yourself up about if you don't learn from it, which, like, I didn't on the first 3. I learned it took me 4 to figure it out. But on the 4th one, it stung bad enough that I said, I need to make a change. So sometimes, it's all about the pain that you feel when you make those bad decisions that are going to wake you up and get you on the right path. Nothing to beat yourself up over. It's a learning experience. I'll look back at each one of these things, and even some things that I don't want to get into now, some difficulties I've had in my life, that I wouldn't change a thing about those things, because I see who I am today and how that moment or that trial or tribulation, I grew. You grow a lot through those things, dude. So it's not, listen, pushing hard, running up against a wall and failing, and that's one thing. Decision making is you learning how to take a step back from things so you don't put yourself. It's preventative instead of now I've got to fix something that I broke. It's about, let me figure this out before I break something. And so it's really just a mindset of where that decision making comes in. Are you willing to let it rip and the consequences are what they are? We do that a lot. Just so you know, it's not like we don't do that, but the juice is worth the squeeze in those cases. The potential benefit is worth what could go wrong, right? And so it's just there's no rhyme or reason. You start to understand it within your own life, and you develop a feel over time because you're paying attention to it. Think about this. If you go back and look at the decisions that you've had to make as a young person, they've led you to where you are today. you like where you are today. So probably you've made some pretty good decisions along the way. If you find yourself in a spot that you don't like, then guess what? You probably should evaluate this, and maybe you can figure out where along the track that you went wrong.
Yeah. And too, like what Mike brought up about like the pressure with the decisions, I'm just saying that the age that I'm at right now, like if I did decide, like let's say I moved to New York, that would change a lot, because think about all the different people that versus if I stayed here. That's what I meant with like it's going to really affect the trajectory of where, because of all the different people you're meeting.
Exactly.
Your environment is completely different.
Completely different.
And so I find that though a lot of people my age are facing so much societal pressure. And actually Gary Vee talks about this a lot. Gary Vee's like, if you're 22 and you're DMing me about this, like you got another problem. Gary Vee's like, you have so much time. But it's hard for me to resonate with that, because like I agree with all these other people that are stressed about it, because social media, society, like it's so fast paced. Everybody's go, 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 go. So you feel like you only have a certain amount of time. You feel like your window has kind of shrunk a little bit. That's really what I'm trying to say. But, you know, the saying that's like everything happened for a reason. You're right where you're supposed to be. And if it didn't happen the way you wanted it to go, it wasn't meant for you.
But you know what, though? I look at these things, you know, is check it off the list. You tried it, dude. Like,
yeah.
Because,
but yeah,
because
and if it didn't work out, it just wasn't meant for you. But you have something else, you know?
And what did you learn from that?
Yeah.
That's the thing. There's lessons. Every one of these things that happened that I did wrong. Listen, there was a major lesson that helped shape my values going forward, dude. So listen, but being a good decision maker, you have to be conscious about it and be aware of it. And I think when you are, listen, it's going to improve your life if you can, because if you put yourself in a position to win, then guess what? You're going to probably be happy. If you're constantly making decisions that put you in a position to lose, life is going to suck, dude.